intro here. Uh-oh. Where's the sound? Well, this is unfortunate. Huh. Well, we're going to pivot. There was no sound.
I think we can just make jokes about there being no sound.
Yeah, it's all good. Technical difficulties.
So
Sally can wait. She knows it's too late as we're walking on by. Her soul slides away, but don't look back in anger. I heard you say.
doing the rest of it. You're not doing the rest of it because I'm very upset. You have no idea. I was always saying, get Jim here. Okay. Have you ever seen the little video of the guy? What is it? The I've no more fucks to give.
I don't think I have.
Okay, you need to go do that because it was the most fitting song ever, and I was all excited and and it just fell on its face.
I feel like there's a good opportunity to give free advertising to Golden Monkey. We're gonna blame tonight since
Drink Victory beer.
Hey, you gotta love the Oasis intro though.
Yeah. Well, it was the episode of last one. It was because Oasis is getting back together, and then all of a sudden Shelty wanted to be all angry, post death of the season. So it was "Don't Look Back in Anger, Shelty." So there you go.
There you go.
It all pulls together.
No hard feelings, Rich. You're hitting 900 with the intro, so I can't complain.
Oh, dude, it's so sad.
9 of 10, so can't complain.
Well,
speaking of sad, Pittsburgh Pirates, right? I do want to open up with some really fun stuff. Obviously, we have Jim here, the man, the myth, the legend. Is it? How do I pronounce it? Rosati? Am I pronouncing it correctly?
Rosati. Yeah. Yeah.
I was saying rigatoni. I was close.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's an Italian name. You can say it really however you want. As long as you just end it with a vowel, you're good.
Okay.
There it is.
There we go. All right. Well, Jim, thank you so much for joining us today. Super hyped about this one. Rich mentioned me fanboying in comments yesterday. That's not going to happen.
I may have.
Maybe once we log off, maybe a little bit, but I don't want to stroke your ego too much because Rich kind of enjoys that stuff.
No. Thanks for having me on. I'm happy to be here. I'm excited.
Yeah. So I like to open up with an icebreaker, just to kind of get other people's memories and perspectives. I do, especially with guests, Rich. I like to open up with an icebreaker, so I'm going to. So we've seen it pretty commonly said over the last month, recently about the last month, that this might be the worst month in Pirates history. So I'm curious, both of your guys' perspective. Hit me with the worst moment you've experienced with the Pirates since becoming a fan. What do you think is the worst that you've watched or seen live or anything like that?
I know mine. Whoever wants to go first.
Good,
I know mine. Mine was it was when I was still a kid. I was in high school at the time, and it was the first time I realized being a fan of the Pirates, I'm screwed. I am screwed. This franchise is worthless. I'm just wasting my time following them. And that was when they traded Aramis Ramirez to the Cubs for Bobby Hill, I think was the player to be named later in the trade. I think Jose Hernandez was one of the players coming back in there. But it was obviously just a nothing but a salary dump. Aramis, I loved Aramis Ramirez at the time. And I think I was... Gosh, I want to say that was 2001 or 2002, somewhere in that area.
Yeah.
So I was 14, 15 years old. Heard that trade, and I was just like, what's even the point? What's the point of doing this anymore? If we're just going to give Aramis Ramirez away for nothing, what's the point of being a Pirates fan? So that was kind of when my mindset shifted to just I guess this is the burden I must bear the rest of my life.
First of all, I applaud you for sticking through after that. I was really young at the time when he was traded. I think I was probably 13 or 14. So I was 6 or 7. I remember it, but at the time it didn't really hit me. That 14, 15, that's an age where that's really going to stick. Oh, man. Well, I applaud you for sticking through, my friend. That is woof. Rich, how about you?
That was bad.
So it's not a specific moment per se. It's the realization that the watermark was 500. Like that was the aspiration. Like that was our World Series. Like once that was the biggest kind of, we're not worried about winning. We just want to break even. I think once that really set in, I think that was the worst kind of just overall arcing, like, oh God, they really don't care about winning. They just want to break even. That sucks. Like that's like going to the casino and you're just trying to go there to have fun. No one goes to the casino to have fun. You know who goes to the casino to have fun? People that are losing. They're like, well, I mean, I found this $20 on the way here, so it's just silly fun. No, like you're here to win the games. You're here to put up a banner, not be embarrassing. You're like, no, we want to break even. Cool, great, love it, yay.
I have one that's pretty popular, but it's definitely one that sticks in my mind because I actually similar to you, Jim. I was in high school when this happened, so I'm gonna go with the
last week for you, wasn't it?
You know, I'm growing this in, so
it's
10 years since. So you know, it's not gonna work. We'll leave it at that.
Yep.
Jerry Meals is definitely it for me. Just the overall story behind it. Yeah,
that was my initial pick actually. So I like it.
Well, for me, so I was born in '95, so I had never ever seen any sort of winning. To be honest with you, actually, I don't think most of us haven't, right? But that was like kind of the year where they were starting to play really. I think they were like 20 games over at some point, or at least 10, 15 games over at some point that season. And I remember, and I actually was up with my late friend, my friend who passed away a couple years ago, but we would sit on the phone and watch the games at night, right? And it was like 2 a.m. And it was one of the worst experiences ever because we're on the phone, right? And the play happens and he was 10 seconds ahead of me. So he goes, yeah, you know, you hear him go, yeah. And then he goes, what? And I'm like, oh no, like what happened here? And I saw it happen. And, you know, it's hard to kind of classify as a moment, but it does to me because we know what happened after that. They like completely collapsed immediately after that. And a year completely down the drain. Of course, the following years they made the playoffs and whatnot, so I can't get too fast. But that was the kind of moment where I realized, like, wow, not only is the system completely built to crap on us, but in general, we're going to get crapped on, whether it's the officiating, whether it's the system, whether it's our owner, whether it's for some reason, that's the worst for me. Number 2 is the Chris Archer debut start. I went to that. I think he gave up like 4 runs, but Jerry Meals is the one that really kills me just because of the overall feeling of this is how it's going to be. So similar to you, Jim.
That Jerry Meals game, that would have been what, 2012? Yeah. Was that August 2012, I want to say.
Yeah, or I think it was like right before the deadline. So I think like the very end of July. Yeah.
Yeah, because then they just tanked right after that. Like they were having a really good year. They were either in first place or like within a game or two at that point. And then it just went downhill after that. That one was rough. I still remember where I was because I remember that was like the early years of smartphones. Like they were like everyone had one, but like data was still kind of spotty, right? And that game lasted forever, right? I mean, I think that last play happened at like 1:30 or 2 a.m. Yep. And I remember my wife and I, and she was my girlfriend at the time, but we were driving to Florida. She was on her way to do like her clinicals for doctorate school. So we're driving to Florida from Louisville, Kentucky, and we're like going through the Smoky Mountains, like of Tennessee. We're like not that far from Atlanta, honestly. We're driving through the mountains in Tennessee, and so like data's going in and out, in and out. I'm watching the game on like an iPhone 3GS, iPhone 4, whatever the model was at the time. and it was grainy, and so that was my Jerry Mills game experience, was just watching the game driving through the mountains of Tennessee in the middle of the night. So that was not fun. And we just drove through the night all the way to Sarasota, Florida. So that was a rough night. It was a rough night.
I'd have been gripping the steering wheel. I would have been pissed.
I was sitting at the house knowing that I had to be up at 6 a.m. for work. Like this is very reminiscent of this Penn's quadruple overtime game back against Philly, which, funny enough, happened on the birthday. Yay. Yep.
Yeah. I remember they showed there was that kid in the stands, just like with the most dejected look ever. There was a Pirates fan. Like they just kept showing him. He was like the saddest kid of all time.
Yeah.
It was like, oh God.
Resembled all of us. It's hilarious that you guys know exactly where you were, because that's definitely one of those moments that you just remember where you were.
Absolutely. It's polarizing, man. It drives a stake in you.
Jerry Mills says he was safe.
Yeah. That Chris Archer game, though, that was electric. Like his first start with the Pirates, I feel like that was like he wasn't great, but he had a few really good moments, struck out some batters with runners on base. Like I remember that was a fun time.
I had a good bit of drink that evening. I'll put it that way. It was quite fun. I remember singing on the river walk down, singing the Drake song, but like, where he's like, "Do you love me?" and whatnot. But I was crudely inserting Chris Archer into the words. So it was definitely an alcohol fueled night, and we saw what happened after that, of course. But you're definitely right. It wasn't like it was.
I think it's tough to remember him and not have all the hurt.
Yeah.
You know how it goes. Like he wasn't perfect, so like immediately after the press was just really negative, and the commentary was really negative and whatnot. But
dude, he was pretty bad overall. Like that was a swing and a miss, which he forgot how to cause those after the fact, which is ironic.
Just the package itself. I mean, like at first it looked really bad. I feel like as the years have gone by, it hasn't been
right. No, not.
But the package itself, I think, what makes it sting more than anything. Because I think Meadows the year after had an absurd year. I'm talking like 4+ WAR, all of that. Like I think Meadows was really good. Obviously, Glasnow figured it out. Baz is
eventually, dude. Like he
but
well, I think and what was weird about that trade is, yeah, like Kutch was traded the offseason before, so like you traded Kutch, and then you were like, okay, well, Austin Meadows is just like the natural replacement, and then they just traded Meadows a few months later, which was wild. Yeah, I mean, at the time, I was like, you know what, go for it. Looking back, they went after the wrong guy. I still think like they should have made a trade there and gone for it. I think they just picked the wrong guy. And that happens, and ultimately it cost Neil Huntington his job. I think that trade had a lot to do with it. But yeah, people say that's like the worst trade of all time, and it's like there's a lot worse. There's been a lot worse than that. Like Austin Meadows is out of baseball. Shane Baz can't stay healthy. Tyler Glasnow, when he's healthy, is dominant, but again, can't really stay healthy. So it wasn't that.
Plus,
it was a bad trade.
He has to show up for his movie premieres, and because he literally looks like, what's his name? Oh God, what is his name? The Peaky Blinders guy.
Yeah, I don't know his name, but he looks exactly like him.
Exactly. It's frightening.
Yep.
Well, speaking of starting pitching, since we talked about Chris Archer, we saw the series of the Guardians. Ortiz pitched pretty well. That was good to see. But overall, at least the last month, the pitching has really struggled. Starting pitching, back in the bullpen, obviously. So my question for you guys is, because I've seen some people share concerns about Keller, share concerns about Jones recently. Are you worried about the starting pitching moving forward?
Yeah, you're the guest friend, though. You get to go first.
Short term, maybe a little bit, because you're going to have to, like, Jones and Skeens are both going to be on innings limits going forward. So you're going to have to just find guys to fill that in. Ortiz is who he is. Falter is who he is. I like what I'm seeing out of Ortiz, and Falter's put together a solid season for a number 5 starter. Long term, I don't really have any concerns with this staff, though. Like, Mitch Keller is he's got his bumps along the way, but if you look at it, like the Pirates are 17-10 when Mitch Keller starts this year. Yeah. He's a really good pitcher. Like, no matter how you slice it, he's a good pitcher. The Pirates are lucky to have him. Paul Skeens looks like he's going to be just an absolute stud, perennial Cy Young candidate. I'm not worried there. I still have some concerns about Jared Jones. Just like, can he maintain a starting pitching profile over the course of an entire season? Because we've never seen him throw that many innings before. So like, can he do it? I think that's a question that still remains to be answered. When he's healthy, he's good. Fastball's really good. Slider's really good. And then there's enough stuff behind there between Ortiz and Falter. And if you go into the minors, Ashcraft, Harrington, Chandler, there's enough guys in there that I think the pitching staff, at least the starting rotation piece for the future, looks very promising. And you can always bring in a veteran in there too to plug a hole if you need to. But no, long term, they look good. Short term, it might get a little dicey here down the stretch. Just like you might have to have more Domingo Herman starts or something like that. And I don't know if anybody wants to see that, but we might
not,
be,
sir.
yeah, we might be having to see some of that. But yeah, outside that, no, I don't really have too many concerns.
Yeah, I mean, I have zero concerns. I feel that generally speaking, the last month and a half, they've been so bad. Not the pitching necessarily, just the team in general, that they are trying to have to put the team on their shoulders. So, you know, you're trying to pitch perfect. You can't do that. You go against your whole mantra of what has made you successful. The bullpen, I mean, I feel like they're trying to make up for the bullpen too. They realize, okay, if I don't put up 8 and I'm up by like 5, we don't have to deal with fat ass in there. So let's, you know, so I get it. And then you're worrying about the 4 hits we get a game. So, I mean, I feel, and I may be completely off base, but I can't imagine that the starters aren't putting so much pressure on themselves.
No, I totally agree with both of you guys. I mean, I've seen some sentiment recently of maybe Jones isn't a 2 or 3, Keller XYZ, but you know how that goes with the reactions and whatnot. I completely agree. Skeens and Jones, especially, I think everything is, and even Skeens, his setbacks are him, you know, walking 3 guys and, you know, right. So he's struggling whatsoever. Yeah. But Skeens and Jones, I think, very workload related. Like you guys, like you mentioned, Jim, like Jared Jones has never touched this amount of innings, right? Like Skeens also is getting to that territory. Keller is what he is. I 100% agree on that. I think at his best, he's a 2 for you, and at his worst is a 4. And that's still very, 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 very valuable. It's especially at what, $15 million a year he's making right now. Ortiz, with our starter moving to the bullpen, looks like he's going to be an asset. So I totally agree, and I'm glad to see you guys are right there too. And then you kind of add in like long term, you add in the Chandlers, right? You add in the Harringtons. Ashcraft's kind of been hurt a lot, but I feel like he's going to end up in the bullpen anyways with the stuff he has. So I totally agree. I am also not worried about the starting pitching, and I think what the starting pitching that they have, they're going to have a shot every year in the coming years because of that. If they actually decide to your point, Rich, add to the the lineup with the 4 hits and things of that nature. So
we need at least 6 hits, scientifically proven.
Yeah.
Harvard via University of Phoenix. Yes.
All right. But no, I agree with you. How many games they lost this year? Just from not hitting whatsoever, wasting pitching performances. You're definitely right, Rich. I'm going to get sucked in again. I renewed the season tickets this year. And because of the pitching and whatnot, and getting sucked in again.
There you go, Bob. Bob, nothing all over your face again.
Hey, maybe, I don't buy the beer.
11-50, by the way, is the Pirates' record if they don't score 4 runs.
Wow.
11-50. So like that's you got to score 4. Once you score 4, then but if you can consistently get to 4 runs, and we've seen them lose those games here recently, but with how good their pitching has been, if you can just score 4 every game,
right.
Yeah,
you're putting yourself in a position to win most of them.
And I'm being silly and jokey, but like legitimately, like we're banging out 5 or 6 hits a game. That's terrible. Yeah. Like that almost feels hard to do.
It's even worse when none of them are with guys on.
where they're all singles.
We're the king of the 2-out double.
So it'll be interesting to see what they do in the offseason because the need is very, very clear. Other than throwing Andy Haynes into the river, that's one of the things.
Yes.
But just overall, like bats. I think we're in agreement. Pitching's great, going to be great starting pitching wise. I think even with bullpen, they'll be fine. With
once again, though, I mean, don't plant that flag too deep though, because it's not bats. It's like a few bats.
Yeah,
I mean, it's much different than it used to be.
Yeah.
Which is weird. I mean, it's very strange to say. I mean, we need to once again fire Andy Haynes into Hayes, actually, which would be just Haynes on Hayes crime. That would be fantastic. But yeah, I don't make that out to be that we are going in with Andy LaRoche at third here.
Well, that's a big problem.
Well, basically, we do have that.
I was going to say that's Andy LaRoche might be an upgrade at this point.
That's super fair. I mean, yeah, I'm saying Andy LaRoche base team, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah, I think they're going to have some tough decisions to make this offseason because there are some players that, and really I'm talking about Brian Hayes, Nick Gonzalez, Henry Davis, even like players that you've invested time and effort and energy into and money. And it's like, can you count on them? With Hayes, I think you kind of have to, like you're stuck with them. You signed him long term. He's just going to have to figure it out. You're either going to win with them or you're going to lose with them. But you do have to make the decision. Like, is Nick Gonzalez? Do I want Nick Gonzalez to be my starting second baseman?
I do really, really bad.
Do I want to give playing time to Henry Davis? Because I count on him for anything. These are questions where they need to ask themselves these questions and they need to answer them correctly. And if they don't, it's gonna lead to just another season like this because you were hoping for something out of Hayes, Lewinsky, Davis this year, and you got nothing out of any of those guys. And that's putting us into the spot we are now.
I would not count on Henry Davis to give me change for $1. All set.
But I agree. There's not getting enough out of the guys they have here already. You know, people mock Charrington all year long for good reason, right? But one of the things he kept preaching was we anticipate improvement internally, right? And I think he was being truthful with that because to your point, Jim, like they have a bunch of guys that they thought were going to perform and they have not, right? Like Gonzalez had that good stretch when he first came up, but he's kind of slumped recently. We know about Davis. Good God. I'm even starting to get a little, and I love him.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, man, that excites me a little bit.
Well, I mean, I feel a little bit better now that Bart exists, right? And it makes you wonder, like, someone suggested trading Gonzalez like a month ago, and everyone was like, what? No way. Like, I could see it. I could see it this offseason, trying to get, package some of those guys that, you're not too sure on, you've seen a year in here, and that you haven't seen it yet, right? Like, I could see that.
What are you going to get for Henry and Sawinski?
Well, Henry, I don't think you're getting anything for Sawinski. Henry probably, we'll see, right? But, like, I think Gonzalez still has a lot of value. Not that I'm advocating for that, but it's going to be interesting to see what they do. Like,
I mean, even Nick Gonzalez, like, the thing I appreciate about Nick Gonzalez is he at least swings the bat. Like,
right.
when he's up to bat, he attacks fastballs, and when he sees one that he likes, he swings and he hits it. He's like the only player on the team that does that. Everyone else, they see as many pitches as possible. So I appreciate Nick Gonzalez for that. But, like, the numbers aren't good. Like, the numbers aren't good enough for being a starting second baseman. Got an 85 weighted runs created plus, a 0.9 WAR. He's decent defensively, but he's not giving you a ton of power. 5 homers in 70 games. Like, you play him over the course of a year, and you're talking about a guy with a 680 OPS with 10 homers.
See,
it's not good enough.
Bag of bagels.
Oh. Bag of bagels. That's a new one. We usually hear ham sandwich from Rich, so I like that one, Frank. All these guys aren't worth a bag of bagels in a trade. And
there was. Do you guys remember Rocco when he did like the radio? Like
DeMero?
Like, dude, I don't know. He had some name. Obviously had a name.
Did he do later?
Rocco DeMero, yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds right. That sounds right.
Yeah.
I've drank a lot in my life. He used to make the funny little quip of like, let's trade all the good guys for the bad guys, or vice versa. and unfortunately, and I think Madden says that too, but he's a terrible person. It's a weird thing that I don't know if other fan bases do this, but we tend to do this so much. It's like just go ahead and trade Davis and Swinsky and Hayes, and go ahead and get like a Juan Soto. It's like
a pretty good deal to me.
That's a good deal.
Yeah, it sounds like a great deal if you've been doing meth for a few weeks. Like there, and it's a weird thing that we do here. And I was of the ilk of thinking, do not have Henry up here. But then Bart was like, hey, my hamstring is made of, ham salad. So we're going to go ahead and sit down for a little bit. But still, they should have kept Henry in there. Let him bat, and build your equity up and trade somebody for, I don't know, a turkey sandwich. I don't know. I don't care.
I like turkey sandwiches.
Dude, turkey sandwiches are amazing.
Too. That's like my go-to sandwich.
Yeah,
that's super fair.
What do you put on it?
I just go turkey, yellow mustard, and and pickles.
Oh. Sir, have you tried honey mustard on there?
I am not a honey mustard guy.
Right,
I'll go spicy mustard, like Steel City mustard, whatever we want to talk about, but honey mustard, it's not for me.
Oh, all right, well, I thought you were a smart fella.
26 minutes in, I guess the podcast is over.
Yeah, well, it's good seeing everybody. But yeah, like I just don't. I don't see why you bring him up here, then sit, then have Grandy play. There's no reason for that. Build the equity up, get rid of him, see what you can do. Because him and his Jeff Bagwell-esque batting stance and sitting 2 feet away from home plate, thinking you can hit a slider is not ideal. Like I don't know. Like you're built like Altuve at this point. Like when you bat that way. So I don't know what you're doing. But we got some more comments here.
I don't think he knows what he's doing either.
Yeah, he doesn't. I think he's just and the biggest thing that, and I don't know if Taylor, you've been on this kind of ride here or not, but once ago he's killing AAA. Like that's worse pitching. Like he looks good down there because that's his speed. Then he gets up here and he's like, oh. No, it's like if you played Madden your whole life on pro, then you go on all Madden. It's like, oh no, this is not for me. Like that's what he comes up and does.
Vic, you can find that probably on MLB.com, like stat categories, stuff like that, for comparing Cubs and Pirates. I would hope the Pirates are still better, but I haven't checked recently. With the recent performances, it's very possible they are not.
Yeah.
What did Frank put in the comments as well?
I'm getting there. I'm letting you read because I know
I'm excited. Sorry, Frank has a good comment. Most fans tend to overvalue their own players and assume every GM in the league except their teams is an idiot, even though they regularly flog their team's GM for being an idiot.
Yeah, it's fair.
Frank is not wrong whatsoever.
But we're really good at it. We've had a lot of practice.
Yeah. For me, and bringing up Gonzalez and bringing up Davis, it kind of begs the question of, do we overvalue our own prospects? I mean, Pittsburgh, the Pirates, I feel like my entire life have overvalued their own prospects. But, is this another case of us holding on to guys that we weren't sure on, or were they sure of? Who knows with the Ben Cherington and Shelton combo at this point? There's things I like about Cherington. There's things I don't like. Player development's always been a question, right? With a lot of these guys coming up and not doing well. Same thing with the coaching staff, which I think is a good segue into the next topic I want to bring up.
If you don't let Jim speak, I will choke you.
What?
What'd
you say?
This man was over here chomping at the bit, trying to say things. You're trying to get a segue out of there.
Rich. Go ahead, Jim.
You're all good. You're all good. No. I was just gonna say, shit. I lost my train of thought.
Oh, but no.
See, you son of a bitch.
I actually forget. I will say this: the Cubs have a better whip than the Pirates. Whoever asked that question, 1.25 to 1.32, 1.31. But then also, we brought up like our other fan base is the same as us in that regard, and And I think we all dealt with that over the last few years. Yankees fans were trying to trade us Miguel Andujar and Clint Frazier for like 5 years for like our best players.
Yeah.
So I think we're not alone in this. Like, let's trade our bad players for good players. Every team does it. I do think everybody overvalues their own prospects just because they know them the most. Like if you knew the San Diego Padres number 8 prospect as much as you knew the Pirates number 8 prospect, you'd love the Padres number 8 prospect just as much. So I think it's just you like what you know, and so yeah, you tend to overvalue your own guys a little bit.
Man,
I have a question real quick before we go on Vic's here, and it's unrelated, but it's super related. I know you are, Taylor, but Jim, you a fantasy football guy?
I am.
Okay.
Just a little bit. Like I'll dabble in it.
Okay, fair enough. One thing I tend not to do is draft local talent. I don't want to touch it because you see too much of it. It's funny because you're saying what we're saying about that, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? That's a great point. Like you've seen too much, so you can analyze your players a lot more than. Like, the scouts saw the tape. It's like, yeah, but dude, I see what this guy does on 2-seamers, like a day games when like the wind is like 4.5 miles an hour. Like, I know what happened. Like, it's just one of those things. But yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah, it's like the guy who drafts George Pickens in the 2nd round of the fantasy draft.
My father.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
My God, you're welcome, Vic. By the way. Jim actually answered it for you, though. The Cubs have a better whip, which is just disgusting to me. Oh, my God. I'm so glad you brought up Yankee fans and their trade proposals because it has been something that I've gotten to plenty of battles on the X/Twitter in the last couple of years. Even when the Reynolds stuff was going on, some of the offers that were just egregious. And then typically what you see happen is they undervalue the player they're trading for. So Reynolds isn't good, right? I think someone tried saying like Verdugo might be as good. Like, good God. I get it. I get the argument, but like
it's better because he has more syllables in his name, but that's about it.
I'm so glad that someone else shares the same distaste for Yankee fans trade proposals. Have you seen?
I do find it funny though when you do see it on Twitter though. People like the Yankees will lose 2 games in a row and literally the sky is falling. It's like you don't even know what pain is, do you?
They don't.
No one has it worse than Yankee fans. No one.
Never, ever.
Mets fans try to like make themselves out to be like the most crazy fans too, and it's like, no, you're not. Like, you were just in the World Series a few years ago, guys.
Yeah, and you're in a really bad division. Like, you have to deal with the Braves. So I'm like sorry for your luck. We're in a very winnable division, like all the time. We're like, we don't do that here.
Henry Davis just got a base hit, by the way.
Oh,
hey, there you go. That's his one for the week.
Was it a single?
It was a single.
Did he pull it?
He pulled it.
Damn it. All right. Well, I'll take it. It's better than nothing. So now I'm going to segue, Rich. My apologies, Jim.
You are allotted this time.
I do want to talk about this, but I haven't gotten a chance to talk about it with anyone today because I've been.
Oh.
I'm sure we've all seen the DK report. Rich, if you haven't yet, essentially he pretty much reported that his sources are telling him that Shelton's as good as gone if things don't improve over the next month. He really focused on, I guess there's 18 non-players that have lockers within their clubhouse. And overall, he very much hinted at the clubhouse culture is not great. So I'm just curious to hear what your guys' thoughts on that. I know that's been a big topic for the last couple months, naturally, with the collapse. And I mean, Shelton's been a pretty despised man for quite some time.
Whoa.
Yes?
You guys see that?
What?
Breaking news. Water's fucking wet. Like, dude, no shit, man. Like, yes, he should have been fired out of the same can and all the other people should have been fired out of. He is awful. No, I don't know if he's awful. He's just, but he is catalyst of the play. You put up Sunday lineups out probably 3 out of 6 or 5 games, like batting Kutch in lead off and then going to clean up and then sitting De La Cruz as soon as he's on the heater, because that's how you keep riding that hot streak, is by sitting a guy for 2 games. he is. I feel like he's just way above or way out of his league here. I think he was expecting to have the team he had for the first 3-4 years here, and that's not the case. And he's like, "Oh, I actually have to piece this together to win." Nah, it's fine. We're gonna keep batting Rowdy when he was batting 70, .74 in cleanup, and hope that he'll bat his way out of it. Still a month later, it's like, no. Now he's batting .83. That's super cool. Great. Let's keep putting him out there. It's just dumb decisions like that. Still going to Yinzer, Bednar, and not putting a can of Icy Light in Grondel's, catcher's mitt so he can aim to actually get something he cares about. Just the continuous stupid decisions. And I get it. He's not the one hitting the ball, throwing the ball. I get it. But you're putting those particular people in those particular situations, and it doesn't fit them. It doesn't fit them. Like, what are you doing? So if he doesn't get martyred, I don't know what this team is doing. I really don't.
Yeah.
Call it martyred or not, but yeah.
So I don't have a disdain for Derek Shelton. I think he's fine. Now, with that being said, he's got to go. And there's a few reasons for that. One of which, like, he was the guy to get you through the rebuild. And I've kind of talked about this a lot of times where, you tanked. You tried losing as many games as possible for, let's call it 3 years. It extended into 4. I don't think they tried to lose as many games as possible last year, but they didn't do well. But let's call it 3 years. They tried to lose as many games as they possibly could. And he was the guy to lead them through that. It wasn't his fault. Like, his team was terrible. He was given awful players to work with. But I think you can't truly flip the switch from rebuilding to contending if you have the exact same guy leading you that was leading you for all of those losses. Like, at some point, you need some sort of event to flip the switch. And we saw it, in the early 2010s, where it was the same thing with John Russell. I don't think anybody liked John Russell, but John Russell was also given terrible players to work with, right? And then as soon as it was time to say, okay, we're done being terrible, we need to start winning, John Russell got canned. Clint Hurdle comes in, right? I think you just have to. He's just a casualty of that. You got us through the rebuild. You did your job. It was your first head coaching job, first managerial job. You know what? Thank you. Appreciate all the hard work. You did everything we asked you to do. Good luck in the future, right? But we need somebody who can basically flip that switch from rebuilding to winning. And I'm not saying he's not capable of winning, but it's just like the same thing. There's no difference between the 2025-24 coaching staff and the 2023 people who led you to a 100-loss season, right? So in 2022 and 2021. So you've got the same people in charge who just lost a ton of games, and you're now expecting them to win. And it's just, I don't think it's going to happen. And I think the nail in the coffin obviously was just August. Like, August was the nail in the coffin. I think he was on track to actually continue on as the manager, but you go into the trade deadline, you get into a position to compete. Your general manager adds to the team, and we can argue how much he added. It wasn't great stuff that he added to the team, but they did add, right? Like, the players
was beyond what we usually do. Like, that was the big part of it. Yeah.
The players that they added made the team better on paper.
Yes.
Right. And they immediately just they lost the season in a week and a half as soon as those changes were made. And so it's like, okay, that was your shot. That was your shot. You failed. You can't be the manager here anymore. So yeah, I think and we had Alex Stump on the show on Thursday, and he kind of, you could tell when it came to Ben Sherrington, he was like, Ben's back. When we asked him about Shelton, wishy-washy. Like, so that kind of just tells you the writing on the wall. I don't think Shelton is going to be retained here. I think he stays on throughout the rest of the year. Like, they give him the opportunity to maybe turn this around, but I don't anticipate that happening. And unless it's like a huge turnaround, I think he's gone.
I was smiling.
I love you, Jim.
Yeah. I 1000% agree with you. It's funny. I actually said something extremely similar to Rich about what 3 or 4 weeks ago. We had a gentleman named Blizz on. You might have him blocked. A lot of people do. But there was a lot of conversation about they're definitely going to bring Shelton back. Why waste another year? And my response was they just added for the first time in forever, right? This is the first time.
This is before the collapse, by the way. So
before the collapse. I'm very proud of myself for this one.
This is like the bridge between the deadline and then August getting.
And I pretty much said, like, this is probably the first time that this front office believes that Shelton has a team that is capable of winning. And they showed that with adding at the trade deadline. And then, like you had mentioned, this is before I knew this was going to happen. My thought process was if they crap the bed in August, September, he's definitely gone. For the exact reason you said, Jim, which was you see it all the time with teams that rebuild where they get to a certain point and they realize, like, wow, the person who's been losing the entire time can't get us to the winning part, right? And we saw that in real time this year where, they played games that mattered, especially like the San Diego series and the Arizona series, and we saw what happened, right? And 100% agree. I'm not going to go too far into it because you said everything that needed to be said, Jim, but I totally agree. I would be shocked, like floored at this point if he's back. I think him and the rest of them are going to go. I do think that, and actually, Rich, if you can pop up Frank's other comment.
He's a dingus, but he's a BC dingus. Yeah, that's fair.
I definitely want to see that one because I think that one definitely applies here. I agree with Frank.
Let's see what Frank had to say here real quick because I don't want to like have it blocking our pretty ass faces. Weirdly, Sherrington has arguably realized decent good trade value for Reynolds, yet got almost nothing for the Pirates major leaguers he inherited when he took the job. Yeah.
I mean, the guys like the major leaguers that he had control, he sold. I don't think that was great.
Yeah,
right. I that's no question. I mean, like they got Bednar out of the one move, they got Endy, but like, what has Endy done so far? But I agree. Like, I feel like he's done better with.
Yeah, Gary took me to school in Endy.
Well, I mean, his best move I feel like has been Bart at this point, which happened this year. But I agree. Like it seems like he's done a lot better on rentals than he has on long-term pieces, which is kind of giving me Neil Pennington vibes. But overall,
the other part of that is who wants to come here. I mean, you got a few offers. Well, maybe some have a few offers. I mean, I think pretty much for Michael A. Taylor, they were like, "Hey, do you want to come here or do you want to bag groceries at Giant Eagle?" And he's like, my head is too big to wear a hat. Let's do the center fielder thing.
You mentioned the who wants to come here though, but at the same time, whose fault is that's
absolutely.
That's the issue, right? Is like you've lost so long. You've been a laughingstock across Major League Baseball for so long that it's hard to just say, okay, now we're gonna try. Because if you want to go to free agency and say you're putting in a multi-year offer for Shota Imanaga, which the Pirates did, the Pirates offered Imanaga more money than the Cubs did. That is something that happened. But he chose the Cubs because it was a better opportunity for him. Now he also got some opt-outs thrown in there that the Pirates wouldn't be doing. But like the Pirates offered more guaranteed money to Imanaga than the Cubs. But he was like,
same thing happened with Ayuk in New England. New England went like almost 7 or 8 more million a year, and he's like, no.
Yeah. So until you prove to the rest of the league that you're serious about winning, they're not gonna take you seriously.
Michael A. Taylor's.
Yep.
Right. Frank says in the Astros series, it looked like Shelton might be learning how to manage with the big boys. He pitched around Alvarez even at the cost of walking in a run to get past the teeth of Houston's lineup. We have said we thought he pitched really well and not pitched. He managed really well in the Houston series and get the dub. Then he managed the Arizona series like a robot child. So we agree, Frank. Which was we thought he was well in the Houston series, and then he just like literally drove his car off a cliff. That's what it felt like, where it just turned into a whole lot of woof. And I don't know if that's because
he just seems outmatched, man. He just seems outmatched everywhere he goes. It's super uncomfortable, man. It's like and then to boot, and I know I've mentioned this before, and Jim, I'd love to hear your kind of read on this. There's no fire there. Like, if anyone watched, because I literally watched some of the game yesterday, and I even on Twitter, and you probably saw this, is like, I said, fuck this, I'm gonna go paint the bathroom, and I literally painted the bathroom. But there was a splitter that was, dude, at least a foot down, called a strike. I think it was against De La Cruz. I'm not sure. I don't remember, but we were already kind of out of it, so it doesn't matter. But if any time is for you to show some fire, to show that you want your job, show that you got your boys' backs. I mentioned this last show. You don't have to be Lou Piniella. But, dude, act like you got a set. Show your team you care, because let's be honest, the strike zone has been terrible, and I get it. You can't complain about every call, but dude, do something. Show that you care.
Yeah, I think that's a tough situation to be in as a manager, because, like you said, like, you can't argue every call, and there's going to be bad calls every game. So it's like, when do you pick? When do you pick the time to argue? I mean, he's been ejected from 4 games this year, so it's not like he's just standing there doing nothing.
Right.
I don't take that. Like, I don't need my manager to be too, like, I mean, you look at like Derek Bell, you see him yell and scream and all.
Right.
He's the worst manager in baseball, in my opinion. Aaron Boone, I can't exactly say Aaron Boone's a good manager, but he does the same thing. Like, he goes out there and just yells like an idiot every week. I feel like he's getting ejected from games. So, like, I don't know. I don't need him out there getting ejected all the time. What I need him to do is make smart decisions, like when the game's on the line, and you see him do it sometimes, but then you see sometimes, and you're just like, this is not what I would be doing here. And then sometimes it'll pay off because it's baseball and stuff happens, and then sometimes it doesn't. I think with him in particular, like I said, Frank brought up the Astros series. Yeah, like I thought he managed, like, he was going through a stretch there where I thought he was doing a lot of really good things, and I don't think he was prepared for the 3 people. I mean, it was just the people he relied on the most in the end of baseball games just absolutely shit the bed.
Oh yeah.
For 2 weeks straight at the exact same time. Like, Colin Holderman was just, we were talking about Colin Holderman potential all-star this year. And and over a 2-week span, he couldn't get anybody out. And then you look at Bednar, who he's had his ups and downs this year, but after a rough April, he kind of figured it out for like May, June, July, and into the summer. But then also Bednar falling apart. And so when the guys you rely on the most to get the job done aren't getting the job done, it's tough. And basically he failed in continuing to do it over and over again, right? Because it's like, how long do you stick with these guys? They've been your guys for a long time. So it's like, you give them a little bit longer of a leash. He just gave them too long of a leash.
Yeah. Your setup man has what is it the most saves of a left-handed closer? Your setup man.
Yeah,
is that,
I think that's right. Yeah.
So I get
then
it.
I can ask you the question, like, if you just make Chapman your 9th inning guy, then you still have to get the outs in the 7th and in the 8th with other people. Like,
yeah.
So it's, I don't blame him for everything, because I think Holderman and Bednar deserve a lot of blame for what happened over that 2-week stretch. But as a manager, you just can't keep your guys. You can't keep putting your guys in the same position over and over and over again, where they just keep failing.
Right. It's like IKF at leadoff spot. Woof. That's going.
There you go.
Swiftly. Connor Joe and cleanup. That's another one that kills me.
Yeah.
Frank put up here, which is hilarious. He put Shelton as a dingus, but he's BC's dingus.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good point, Frank. And
God, what Happ do, Vic? Jesus.
Oh, Ian Happ.
Bad news, Vic.
Vic, thank you for letting us know that Ian Happ is once again ruining our nights.
Yeah, he had a two run triple.
Well, that's I'm surprised he didn't hit a 5-run home run though. Like that's what he usually does. God, he
Dansby Swanson homered.
Oh, gee, are you kidding me?
Again. Oh, Mr. Grand Slam. Cool.
I'm sick. I picked up Dansby Swanson in fantasy this morning and then dropped him once Tatis came back. And of course,
run
immediately.
I love Tatis so much.
But Frank, Shelton's a dingus, but he's BC's dingus. That's something I can't get away from. I'm usually pretty pro Charrington. Like I'm pretty indifferent on him right now. Like I think he's done some good things, some bad things. Right. Not a fan of the player development, all of that. Obviously, he oversees Shelton and the coaching staff. The thing I can't get away from is, if that report's true, the 18 people that are in that clubhouse. And I don't want to defend Shelton by any means, right? Like, I think he definitely has to go. But it makes you wonder how much of that goes into how he's managing and what he does with his lineups and things of that nature. So,
you know what we need? We need an Eddie Murray at first base. Consequently, that's the jersey I'm wearing. It's fine. Shameless plug.
Eddie Murray. Oh my God.
Yeah.
But you get the point. Like, not to beat around the bush, but that's where I'm at. Is like, you get rid of Shelton, are things really going to change all that much?
I get the W knows where is better than the W don't. But like, we're in hell regardless. So let's just kind of hit the roulette wheel here. See what we got.
Yeah.
I know somebody last game or last recording said, get McCutchen in there. I'm like, no, stop it.
No, I think what they need, they need a manager like Clint Hurdle, right? They need a guy who's led a team before, who's won before. Maybe not necessarily like a World Series winner, but you need an experienced manager who's led a clubhouse for many, many years. That's who the next guy needs to be. And there's plenty of those guys out there. So, I mean, you can kind of pick and choose who you want.
Do you want to tell Jim who your favorite guy is?
Joe Madden's my guy. Like, give me Joe Madden. Give me Joe Madden.
Me and Jim get along. I'm telling you, we agree on some things.
Give me Joe Madden. I know a lot of people hate him, but like the dude's won. He's won at multiple places. I think he'd be just what this team needs. Yeah, you mentioned like the 18 I think he mentioned like 18 non-rostered people in the clubhouse, and I don't know. I can't bring myself.
What does that even mean? Like, how does
I can't bring myself to care that like the mental skills coach travels with the team. Like, I don't care.
Seems like a weird thing to care about.
I don't see how that affects the on-field product in any way. And if there's some people in there from the analytics department who's feeding information to the coaches, then good. Like I want the coaches and the manager to have as much information as possible. So it's like I can't bring myself to care about 18 non-players traveling with the team to Cleveland. I care way more about Billy McKinney being on the roster when he shouldn't be. Something like that. Like that's what I care about.
This is why Jim's the pro.
Just saying.
I wish I was a pro. I'd say, where's my money if I'm a professional? I need somebody to pay me for this.
Check your P.O. box. I promise you it's probably on its way.
I swear to God that I also said that Joe Madden was the guy last show. I don't like it. Don't get me wrong. I do not like Joe Madden as a person.
Oh, it makes me feel dirty.
Yeah, like I feel sick. Like I just like there's sometimes I wake up and I just think of the plantar fasciitis.
That's your 4 a.m. wake up call.
Yeah, I gotta go drink some water. Take a puff of a pen or something. Calm myself down. But I agree. That's a name that I brought up last show was Joe Madden. That's why I had my reaction because he just makes so much sense. Someone who would probably be willing to come here. Someone who's won before. Someone who I think would be pushed back a little bit on Charrington and things of that nature. So I'm in total agreement as much as it makes me sick.
I want someone that seems like they care because Shelton seems like he doesn't care. And whether that be body language or his verbiage on pressers where he blames everyone but himself, I don't know. But I want someone in there that gives a shit, that cares, that is fired, that gets angry. Like I saw a little blurb on Twitter. I'm not a college football guy at all, and I can't remember the name of the teams, but it was a little blurb with this coach saying he was fired up because it's like, yeah, we shouldn't have lost. They outplayed us. They outcoached us.
That was loser Brian Kelly.
That's
Brian. What it was? Okay. Because I was just veering through Twitters there and whatever. And I'm just like, yeah, I would like that. I would like that very much. If we lose 100 games and this guy is like, God damn it, good. I like that. Like he seems very like, oh shucks, I guess we're not getting Domino's tonight, guys. Like that's what it feels like to me, and that sucks.
I think another thing too to just keep in mind that we haven't really been in a situation before where if this job opens up, which I think it will, but if this job opens up, it's actually a really attractive job. Like we haven't really been in this situation before because there's a lot of people out there that would sign up at the drop of a hat to have Paul Skeens on their team. You got Paul Skeens, you got Jared Jones, you got Mitch Keller, you've got Bubba Chandler coming up. Like you're walking into a situation where
don't forget about O'Neal Cruz, man. Like that's
oh yeah, but you're loaded with a pitching staff, which I think a lot of managers would love to work with. And you're not jumping into a situation where you got to rebuild something. Like the Pirates, if they make a move, it's a move to win now. So yeah, a lot of managers are going to be attracted to this spot.
I'm glad you said that because I agree. I think it's a lot more. The outlook's a lot more positive than a lot of people realize. And what you mentioned, like the guy, the pitching they have locked down, the guys they have coming, there is talent on the offense, despite what people. We always make the joke lazy Cruz because there's a lot of people that think that there's not a lot of talent on the offense. I still think there is. Is it oozing? Definitely not, right? But I think with the right situation
compared to what we're used to, I think our watermark is a lot lower than most teams. And I hate to say that, but we've had decades of ineptitude. And our watermark is a lot lower, but I think that's what makes us get more excited. And I think that's why this year sucked so bad because you saw what they did. Then they saw you actually did something at the deadline. No, you didn't go get Sammy Sosa. No, you didn't do that. But you got someone that had 18, knocks at the deadline. You had, IKF that was hitting about 290. That's exciting. Beak was like, I'm going to do all the fun things. And that was super exciting. Then you got the kids in the minors. Like you made smart moves and you got rid of dead weight. You got rid of stuff that you weren't going to miss. And usually we're on the other side of that. We're like, hey, here's all of our good players. Can you send us remember those little bags you got in high school or middle school of like Fruities and like little knockoff Swedish fish? That's what we would get back. We didn't do that this time. So I think that's why this year hurts so much because the promise was there and it was exciting. And we just pissed it away somehow, some way. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on what side of the fence you are, Shelton's gonna hang for it. And cool. I'm okay with that because you've shown, not that I mean anything in the world, but you've shown me no reason why you should be retained as a manager.
Yeah. I agree with that. Yeah.
Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, I agree. I haven't seen any reason why Shelton should be kept. I can tell you a lot of reasons like why he shouldn't be fired, but I can't give you any reason why he should be kept.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. Like the pro-con list is not there. Like it's the scales of justice. Like
Frank says, that's why Madden won't get tapped. Shelton's a concierge manager for the front office, just like Farrell was in Boston. So I get that. That's kind of what I was kind of mentioning with the Charrington thing is, and to respond to you, Frank, if that's the way it goes down, where they just bring another person in who's going to do the same exact thing, then we'll probably be having the same conversation about Charrington next year.
Right.
So it's going to be on him to actually bring someone in who's going to elicit change because as of right now, it looks like the most likely scenario is Shelton and co are the scapegoats. Charrington stays on, gives, Charrington's guys get another chance with an experienced manager, right?
How many chances do you get, man? Like, that's the thing. Like, how many times is domestic dispute? Like, how many times are you going to say, baby, I won't do it again? How many times is that going to work? Like, that's where we're at here, man. We're in like decade 3 of that. I'm all set. I'm tired of getting my ass beat.
No, I agree with you, and I'd argue that Charrington going the way that Frank mentions might lose Charrington his job, right?
Good.
And I think so. It's going to be interesting because I don't think that he can continue going the same way that he is. Or again, we're going to have the same conversation about him next year.
If we had a less talented roster, a less talented. Oh, apparently I learned I'm from Fargo today.
I would say it's like Minnesota.
Yeah.
Those Golden Monkeys, man. They'll give you accents. They'll give you all sorts of different.
Yeah, well, we're Yinzers. That's what we do. But just there's no kind of going back now. Like that's kind of what it feels like. They're with the team that they have, the roster that they have, the pitching staff that they have, the things that they have in the minors. There's no reason. Like, you have to purposely try to ruin this. Like that's where I think we're at now. Like, you can't. I'm not saying we're going to go win, get our ring here in the next 3 years. I'm not saying that. It would be nice, but there's no way to settle for that watermark being the 500 mark. That is ridiculous. That is a loser's mentality.
Let me ask you this. Let's say they finish this year 74 wins, which is about what they're on pace to do. 74 wins, Shelton, whole coaching staff, they're gone. Bring in a new guy, and they win 81 next year.
They're keeping him.
Do you keep Ben another year?
With how they operate, the improvement and things like that, yes, I think they would. I think
because the expectation is so minimalistic, it'll probably work out, and it sucks. It shouldn't.
So that's year 6 of Ben, no playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Year 7, let's say year 7 they win 84, but they still miss the playoffs by like a game or two. I mean, how long do you keep it going, right? That's
until the ideology of the team changes, that minuscule progress or the egregious, degradation of what you're doing, if it stays kind of in that little general sweet spot, everyone's going to be happy. And we keep supporting it, and it sucks because we're a big bag of dummies.
I think it depends. If it's straight up, they just they have those wins and they improve over a certain set of years, then I agree with Rich. I think it's going to be the same mentality of there's improvement, right? That being said, you sprinkle in some terrible moves into there, and I think it's a possibility, right? Like you do an Archer type trade where you trade for someone and you just completely blow it, right? Or you let someone. I think there's different factors that go into it, namely the moves that he makes. But to answer your question directly, I think he stays if there is improvement in that nature.
Let me touch on what Frank said here, and I actually have a follow-up question, which you said there. It's like Haynes. People rightfully bitch about the dismal results of the hitting program from FCL to the bigs, but guess what? Haynes is BC's guy.
What's his other comment too? I'm going to answer them both at the same time.
But yeah. Okay.
I think he also put, personally, I think the biggest problem, bigger than Haynes, is Joe Delicari and the disastrous scouting this team has had since 2012.
Have you ever noticed you have the worst Asian players on this team always? I'm just saying, dude. I thought about this last night. I really did, because I thought about kind of what I wanted to talk about. But it seems like, other than Gung, all the Asian folks we get are like they're the worst players ever. Right. And you look at Seattle, you look at San Fran, even Chicago ends up getting some good folks. Like we're gonna pick like the worst parts of Asia to grab the worst athletically talented people that like can't play baseball, and we're gonna say play baseball. So I feel like that comes down to scouting, absolutely.
Well, again, and I agree with you. The international, I believe they just let their, like, God, I can't talk. Didn't they just let go one of their top international directors or something like that? So,
Junior Vizcaino. So
yeah.
Junior Vizcaino has been their director of international scouting since 2017. He was just let go.
It seems that went well, didn't it?
Well,
But
overall,
Delacari, but I mean, to this point, like Delacari's been basically in charge of the draft since 2012 until this year when they brought in Horowitz and Horowitz took over. So Delacari's still with the organization. He was basically demoted. But I mean, he was a holdover from Huntington. So,
and again, it comes down to this. Like, and again, Frank says on the hitting side, their pitching scouting has been good recently. I agree with the pitching. International scouting has been garbage fire, 41 million, and all they have to show for it is Luis Ortiz.
That is not a good return.
All of this comes down to Ben Cherington's job to fix, right? Like, he oversees all these people, as long as I'm not incorrect, right? And that's where this offseason, and again, I'm going to use this to segue a little bit, but this offseason, I think it's going to define his legacy here, what he's going to do. If he keeps the same old guys, he doesn't make the changes he needs to make, he's probably going to be the next one, right? And then we're right back to square one, and that's going to be his legacy is he failed, right?
Which Jim kind of touched on, though. It's kind of the double you do compared to the double you don't. Like, do you get rid of the guy that you're used to and get someone brand new with the hope that it's you get snake eyes or you don't get snake eyes? Like, I don't know. Like, this is unfortunately very familiar waters for us, and we've seen this game before and we've been hurt before.
Well, I think the other thing to keep in mind too is when a general manager gets fired and another general manager is hired, that other general manager likes to kind of revamp things. And not only is it a way to kind of clean out the old, bring in the new, but it's also like going through a rebuild is job security for these guys. Like, it's, you know what? I have no job expectations for the next 4 to 5 years, right? So then you got to think, okay, we really need Cherington to work out, because let's say he doesn't. Let's say next year is the same old shit. You fire Ben Cherington. Now what? You bring in another GM, and is he going to rebuild? Is he going through another rebuild? Like, is he going to say, you know what? This team just doesn't have enough. We're going to have to trade all these guys and play for, we're going to shoot for 2029, 2030. I mean, you could make it like a stipulation in the job search. Hey, like, you know what? We're not doing that again. I mean, I would hope that's what they would do. But a lot of GMs, that's just like how they operate, especially when they take over a small market job like this.
So gross, man. Like,
they're gonna want to they're gonna want to clean house and make it their own, like, mold it and make it their own toy, you know. And again, it's job security. If you do a rebuild, you have no job expectations for 4 to 5 years.
I agree with you, and I think that's a big reason why he's going to get one more year. The big thing is going to be what can his guys do with someone different, instructing them, you know, things of that nature. But my God, it's a nightmare to think about. We've been sitting here for 5 years, like, oh, it's going to get better. Just keep waiting, and it might just happen all over again. So
yeah, it has to get better. Like, if it doesn't get better, then like be prepared for just to go through it again.
God, my new 4:30 wake up moment. No longer.
Could you imagine somebody coming in here? You know what? We're not going to be able to extend Paul Skeens anyways. Let's go ahead and trade him at max value.
Yep.
That's probably one of the first things they do.
Yeah. I mean, it would be the smartest thing to do. I mean, I hate to say it, but it would be the move to do. But
if you're a new GM coming into a situation, you can acquire a lot of talent with Paul Skeens.
Yep.
Yeah, and you're also going to get a lot of pitchforks for that move too. So it's kind of like,
they're just
you can't win because if you don't literally turn that into a World Series like ring that year, your head's on a pike. That's what happens.
I brought up legacies.
Okay.
Someone brought up Kutch being coach, and I really wanted to bring this up because I know Rich has strong feelings on it. Does Kutch come back next year?
Please, God, no.
And if he does, what is he doing?
Giant Eagle bagger.
If Kutch wants to come back next year, you bring him back next year. Yeah. If there's one thing this team needs, that one thing this team needs, it's bats. And they don't have a lot of them right now. And you're talking about a guy, yeah, he's getting older, but he can still hit. I don't have. Let me go
Where
ahead
do you
here
put him in the
real
lineup?
quick.
Where are you putting him at?
Wherever. And I don't think you need to make him an everyday player either, but like maybe take a backseat role. He doesn't need 600 plate appearances, but if he's going to come back and you can get him for $5 million, bring him back. He's the fourth best hitter on this team right now. He's one of only four players on this team that's hitting above average in Major League Baseball. Kutch, Cruz, Reynolds, Bart. That's it. That's the list. And so can you afford to just say, you know what? We don't need one of those four anymore. Like who are you rostering over Kutch? Like, do you want Connor Joe instead of Kutch? Do you want Edward Olivares instead of Kutch? Do you want Jack Sawinski to take up that roster spot? Like, there's plenty of room for a 37-year-old Andrew McCutchen on next year's Pirates team.
But wouldn't you rather them see dedicate $5 million plus to another player instead?
You're not going to get an average major league hitter for $5 million. On the free agent market, they don't exist.
No, I get that, but I'm saying 5 plus. Like, if you actually spend the money that you were just hoarding in your basement here at this point, like, I mean,
they've got the money for more than that. Like, I'm not saying Andrew McCutchen is the only thing they do, but if Andrew McCutchen wants to come back, there's a spot for him because he can still hit. Like, plain and simple, he can still hit.
Frank actually stole my response because my response is pretty much what he said. Kutch is amazing, but he can't get through most of the season, and tying up the DH position is a huge liability for any team in terms of load management. So I agree with Frank's point. I personally think and would like to see Kutch come back in like more of a bench role, not like you mentioned, Jim, not an everyday player. I've said this to Rich too. I don't like him playing DH every single day. We know he can't play the field. He's injured often, right? Like, I think he still has a place here just because of the bat and what he's producing, but it has to be.
Real quick, Frank, you don't even need prime Schwarber. You need against the Pirates Schwarber. But yeah.
Oh God, that was close. For my worst moment was the Schwarber home run. It was a playoff game. I can't complain too much.
I guess my just big problem with is where they put him in the lineup. Either it's leadoff or cleanup. It just
let him lead off. He's got the third best on base percentage on the team.
Yeah,
I mean, he still gets on base. Like the dude's a good major league hitter right now. There's no reason that you can't just let those people walk away. Like, I'm not in a position to be turning down hitters with a 110 weighted runs created plus. The position flexibility is certainly the biggest issue there. Like, the fact that you can't, if you could just put him in the outfield once a week, it would be so beneficial. And if you could, if you could get away with that, that would be great. But I also think if you acquire and have like real players on your team instead of just having all these platoons, like the reason why the bench is getting squeezed and there's not a ton of room there is because you got to play all these batters because they're not real everyday players. They're Connor Joe, who you can only play against lefties. They're Rowdy Tellez, who you can only play against righties. So you've got all these platoon players. You need guys who can hit against righties and lefties. If you can find a few of those guys where you say, you know what, you're just gonna play every day, then your bench, you can use a spot on your bench for a guy like Andrew McCutchen, where he's really only there to pinch hit and DH.
Yeah, I agree. That's
we rely on him, and I think that's my issue. And we have to, because the team has. Like, I'm actually really excited when I see a lineup and there's not someone in the 100s. I'm like, whoa, it's like a Christmas miracle.
Doesn't happen often
because, it's September. That's not how, batting averages should work. So
that's where I'm at too. Is
like I have to remind myself we actually have a DH and it's not a pitcher. Like that's a problem.
Am I open to him being back? Yes. I think again the bat still plays, but they got to get better in the lineup. And part of me is, like you mentioned, like you have better players in the team, then it's he gets pushed to a bench role, right? But
right,
they're going into next season with every single game 100, with Kutch
he's a necessary
improved enough. So
he's a cheap situation too in the grand scheme. I get it. I guess I'm just sour about it, man.
Speaking of sour, this one's a quick one, but give me a Cruz stat line next year because I'm getting excited.
Tell you what, the batting average being as high as it is like I would have never thought we'd see a 274 average out of O'Neal Cruz.
Right.
He's almost caught up to Brian Reynolds, which is just incredible to think about. A stat line. So let's just like average OBP slugging. What are you looking for?
I'll do like average homers, RBIs, OPS. Like just we'll keep it simple.
Yeah, let's just go with like 270, 28 homers.
Okay.
I think he if you're going to put him fourth every day, there's no reason why he can't get 100, 105, 110 RBIs. OPS 830, 840.
Oh yeah.
Somewhere in that area.
I love it. I'm getting real excited. I agree with you. I'm thinking around 30 homers, 100 RBIs, about 30 steals.
I was going to say he could definitely be a 30-30 guy easily. You bat him fourth, yeah, definitely get a $110 ribeyes. I'd be fine with him batting 260. I'd be okay with that. But if you let him bat against lefties and righties, like he is absolutely proven, because it was hard because he's so lazy. But now that he got over his laziness and he, grew up some after his first year in the fucking league, now that he finally learned how to play baseball after the year, he's hitting lefties and righties, just literally destroying the ball. Like I'm waiting to have that Pedro Alvarez moment again, where the baseball just explodes and he can't throw it over to first. Like that's what I think. I feel like that should happen every time he hits the ball. It sounds different every time he hits it compared to anybody else. It is disgusting. If you get some loft to him, holy God. Like, it's going to be like a grippy kind of show there. So,
if he keeps hitting lefties like he has been, oh yeah. Like the sky's the limit with him at that point.
Yeah.
Like look at Frank. And again, like I can't, Frank's, really bullish on this and I can't blame him.
Wow.
Average over 300, OPS near 1,000, 35 bombs. He's breaking out. His splits versus left-handed pitching was the final hurdle. I don't think he'll steal a ton of bags because of the
yeah, fair.
I thought the same thing, Frank, but he's really started to pick up the steals.
He really is. Like he's 18 for his last 19 or something like that.
Yeah.
I'll say this: if he does that, then that's like those are like Aaron Judge numbers. You're getting close to, if you're close to 1,000 OPS. That would help the team a whole lot. I don't know if he's quite there. I would love to see it, but I think he continues to improve. He hits the ball so hard. So yeah, you just dream of like if he can just get more lift on it every now and then. This guy has the capability of putting up like a lot of home runs, and when I mean a lot, I mean like 50 plus, right? He hits the ball hard enough that he can do it.
And he doesn't have to swing the ball. He doesn't have to swing the bat hard either, which is the craziest part. Mm-hmm. Did you see that Shohei homer a few days ago where he did like a swinging bunt and it went like 380? Like I feel like he has that exact same thing. Like he doesn't have, but he thinks sometimes he tries to show off because once again he's a young kid. Kids do. So once he matures and he's like, I don't actually have to do that. I can just literally flick the wrist and it's like, oh, that's in the river. That he's going to be so much more dangerous.
Yep.
We're big truthers about him. We despise the unnecessary hate. Like we're very objective, right? If you suck, you suck. We're going to tell you suck. I do not understand the hatred for this guy. Well,
he's the best player on the team.
Yeah.
He's the best player on the team.
But even when he's doing
outside
good, people are like, well, Yeah.
Frank says if he's NL MVP next year, it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest.
That's hot take-ish, bub.
No, I don't think it. The upside's there. I mean, and the improvements you see, more lift and some touch on his batted balls. Actually, his slugging is probably negatively affected because he blasts the shit out of the ball and ricochets against the wall. Right.
Super
so,
fair, yeah.
Just a truly special talent. You're kind of seeing him put it together now. Kind of, he is right. Best player on the team, like Jim mentioned. Enjoy him while he was here, because I don't think that they're going to be able to extend a player.
Pittsburgh's running him out of town. That's what's going to happen. We're going to run him out of town. We're treating him we're treating him like he's hitting like Adam LaRoche. Like that's, and I don't get that. But whatever.
Going back to the manager thing, I mean, like Jim mentioned, like you're a manager on the outside looking in here. The pitching staff, you got an O'Neill Cruz. Like, I'm going to get my hands on him and see what I can get him to do. Right, like. There's a lot of things to be hopeful about, positive about, despite the recent collapse. It's tough, but it's good, really good to see it with Cruz, because, like Jim said, it's going to help the team a hell of a lot if he performs like what some people think he can perform like. And I think he's going to be fine in center. I think you'll see some bloopers, this month, next month. They kind of threw him out there without much prep.
It's fine.
But I think he'll be fine.
He has that athleticism. He'll be able to overcompensate for it. Should be fine.
I think he has all the skills to excel in center. I would prefer him at short still, but if you're going to move him, center is the next best spot.
Yeah. Man, that arm and speed, I agree. Oof. Last question. Jim, you kind of answered already a little bit. I placed some money on over 74.5 wins. Does it happen this year?
0 chance.
What would they need to do? So they would need to win 12 more.
Yeah, what are they? I think it's
75,
12 or 13.
75 wins would mean 75 and 75 and 87. Is that right? Is that the right math?
Yes.
75 and 87. That means 12 and 14 going forward. No, I don't think they do it.
I don't think so either. Not to be a baby, but with my betting luck, they'll finish with 73 or 74, and I'll be sick.
Yeah.
I would be immensely surprised if they pull off 10 wins.
They're about to go through a very weak part of their schedule, so they could. But now the thing is like the teams that they're playing they look at the Pirates and they think the same thing. Like the Pirates, they're 10 games under 500 right now. So like this isn't a good team, but you are going through a part of the schedule here coming up where you're facing other not great teams. So
but that's also the thought that they're actually going to trot out, Skeens and Jones. They may just say, "Yeah, boys, sit down."
Yeah, I don't think they're going to shut anybody down. I think they're just going to do what they've been doing, where they're giving him the extra day of rest in between starts. But yeah, you've got Washington, Miami coming up. Those are 2 series, 7 games, all at home. I mean, it's not outside the realm of possibility you go 6-1 against those 2 teams. Like they're terrible. Now, Pirates are also bad. They could go 1-6 against them too. So yeah, I'm gonna say no though to 12 and 14.
Yeah,
close.
Which once again just hurts, man. It just hurts because that seems like such an easy thing to do. Like 3 months ago, it's like, hell yeah, we could do that. Let's go. We got this.
Man. Well, if I lose, it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? Because, I personally want Shelton gone. So some sort of surge probably might keep him around. At the same time, I like money.
I don't think there's a single thing that can keep this guy here. I really, really don't.
You make a good point, my friend.
Hey, you know what? Brian Reynolds just tied up the game with a 3-run homer in the 8th.
There we go.
So there we go. 74 wins, 74.5 wins.
My $100 is still alive.
Hey,
that was a big swing.
Man, he bat flipped. Did you see it?
He didn't bat flip. Left center field, opposite field, kind of. So, yeah, nice swing.
I'm glad that he finally kind of figured it out, because he had a weird thing about him where he would just kind of
He's had a really good year. Brian
he was
Reynolds.
very like up and down, ebb and flow. He was like the switch hitting Jason Bay, and I'm like, oh, bub, you got to figure it out, man. Like your stats look a lot better at the end of the year, but that's also because you hit for like 100 for a month and a half, and then you hit for like 600 for the rest. But
he's been consistently good pretty much the entire year.
It's exciting. He earned his contract. I'm very unlike somebody else on the team.
I think he'll have to move positions eventually. But I think the bat's going to be fine for years, which is.
Do you like him at DH? I feel like I think it'd be cool to have him as DH. I wouldn't have a problem with that.
I like him at first base.
I think
he's your long-term answer at first base, Brian Reynolds.
I mean, he is a switch hitter. You know who else is a switch hitter? Eddie Murray.
There you go. He could be our Eddie Murray.
See, there it is.
Yeah.
There it is.
Frank says this is a team that had fought, and they're all out of fight.
Yeah.
I think the fan base feels the same way, Frank. I think that's where we're at as well. It's been nice to see the team bounce back at moments, come back, things like that. Eventually, you run out of steam, especially if you don't have the talent or the instruction to get you there. Another reason why I'm excited to see someone else come in here and get them through a full season potentially. Obviously, we want to more talent needs to be added. I think we all agree, especially in the past. But it was nice to see the fight.
First time in a long while, we have a foundation, and we haven't had that to really solid. Well, I wouldn't say it's like a solid foundation, but it's like not like you've got like a shitty beach view house, right? Like that's what you're dealing with. Like it's a foundation's cracking a little bit, but you got like it got some good bones to it.
You're on the beach, just do a couple patches, and you'll be good.
It's fine, but before we had nothing. We just had like roulette of like, okay, we got to fill about 3/4 of the infield here, and at least 2 bats in the outfield, and we don't have a starting pitcher. What's today's date? It's April 12th. Oh, well, that's unfortunate. Like that's where we were usually kind of playing that game. Now we have a team to look forward to, and once again, I think that's why this whole thing stings so much because the promise was there. I mean, look at the bullpen. I mean, the bullpen was a shit show this year. What happened here? Hold on.
Your boy, Andrew McCutcheon, go ahead homer.
Every time he complains about him, Jim, this happens. I told a story
last game. I told a story last show where I would heckle Cervelli and Freeze on the games I would go to, and they would go like 3 for 4. I'm like, look, I'm not saying I'm a wizard, but I'm kind of a wizard.
Yeah, I tried with Jack Sawinski. It didn't work. Did not turn out. I think bullpen collapses suck the emotional energy out of a ball club more than anything, and this bullpen is absolutely created beyond all.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're winning a game. You have your lockdown dudes in there, and they just shit their pants. Absolutely. Right. Like repeatedly. Yeah.
Right. And like Jim mentioned, that was on those guys for collapsing. Right. The problem was continuing to put them in that position afterwards. Right. Especially Bednar.
50-50. Both sides of it. Be better, but also move Bednar to the 7th until he can prove he can actually pitch effectively. And I know it's a different situation, 7th to the 9th. I get it, different mentality, yada, fine. But you pitch like shit on a general base. Like you. Let me run this by here because I know we got to get out of here. What do you feel for Bednar if he had like a sideways breaking pitch instead of just a splitter that goes down, a curveball that's big and loopy? You got the fastball that he relies on not going up because really as a batter, I would think if it's up, it's fastball. Down below, splitter. If it's loopy, it's curveball. I get it. Real easy to say that when you're watching it, but wouldn't it be helpful if he had like a cutter or a slider, something to kind of do something different than
I get something with horizontal movement.
Yeah.
Maybe, I mean, I think I'm not like sounding the alarms on David Bednar's career, basically just because he's shown us over the last 3 years he's very good. And you look at the stuff this year, the stuff's still there. Like, it's not like you're seeing him pitch and you're like, this guy doesn't have it anymore. He's still pumping 98, 99. It's just his control is off. It's just not clicking for him. but the stuff is still all there. Like he hasn't lost any ticks on his fastball. It's actually the fastest it's ever been in his career. So like this, I think it's just more of a location issue. And I think it just had to do with not having a spring training, getting thrown into it in the middle of the season, going through some injury issues kind of here and there. Could he maybe afford to be in better condition and shape? Probably. That may help. But yeah, I'm not ready to just like give up on Bednar. I think the stuff's still there. It's still the same good stuff we've seen from him for years that made him one of the best pitchers in baseball as far as relievers go. He's been a top 5 reliever in baseball over the last 3 years going into this year. So just keep doing what you're doing. Just go have a regular spring training next year and see what happens. I think he bounces back.
I hope so. I would really like to stop calling him fat ass. Love it. Just frustrates me, man. Just like his downfall needs to be documented. Like,
to Jim's point and what Frank just said, Bednar's peripherals are still good. His location has been bad when he's been bad. Bednar is at his best when he can locate the fastball up in the zone, right? And we all know he has not been doing that period this year, right? So, they're 100% going to closers need balls of steel. Frank, W Dog Plus is still elite. Closers need balls of steel, and that's the thing. Like, he hasn't been locating whatsoever, hasn't been coming through in big moments, but at the same time, they're definitely going to roll the dice on him again next year. And I understand why. Again, the control gets fixed and the stuff's still good. He's probably going to be back to where he was. It's just it's going to be very interesting to see if he does get the control back or if
we need to see it. Like that's
right.
You're not, the long relief man. You're the closer. We don't have the luxury to have you figure it out in game action.
Right.
Like that, you blow games that way. As we see.
I would love to see them bring a Chapman type in again. Just a kind of insurance policy on that, right? That's something they're probably going to have to do. Yep. But we'll see. Speaking of we'll see, the Pirates just made a big comeback. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, no, they did. So I was going to say with Bednar, yeah, I absolutely agree with you. Like, just the fastball was what was carrying him before, and it's been a bad pitch for him this year. And it hasn't been a velocity issue. It's been a location issue.
Not too many icy legs, so that's good. Or Iron City, whatever,
Yep.
But all right, gentlemen, Pirates has been a big comeback, so I want to get out to see that. I'm sure Jim does too.
I think Jim, you gotta go record after this, doesn't he? Like, what is your?
Nah, so we I'm not doing the post game show tonight, so I'm off tonight. Yeah. I think tonight's Neil and Donardo.
Well, look, I'm going to tell you, man, sincerely, bottom of my dark heart, I appreciate you taking out the time. It was a ball. Like, it really was. Yeah. It was great.
It was fun. Yeah.
I absolutely understand why you have such a following as you do. Very, very knowledgeable. You're not hideous looking. All those things.
I don't know. You know what though? Before this losing streak in August, I didn't have any gray in my beard. It was no gray. No, I've had that for a bit, but it's definitely gotten grayer as this Charrington era has progressed.
Yeah. Thank you, Frank. Appreciate that. There,
Frank. Thank you for participating.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, he made Vic look like a punk. My God. Usually Vic's our fella in there.
Frank, if you're on X, make sure you follow all of us. Definitely love to interact with you more in the future. Jim, like Rich mentioned, thank you very much for jumping on. I'm sure you're a busy man, so we
don't just let this guy get out of here.
Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you, gentlemen.
Well, I appreciate it, man. I guess just everyone have a good rest of the night. Let's go enjoy a Pirates win.
Oh.
Let's go Bucks.
Go Bucks.
Maybe. All right, guys. Toodles.